Mindful Life Practice Community.
We will get started. Oh, I've got to push it on my screen. Uh, Continue. And can you still hear me now that I pushed that button? Okay. We'll get started today in an easy seat position. And so that's just sitting cross-legged, one leg in front of the other, one shin in front of the other. It doesn't matter which. If you feel like you need a little bit of a lift so that you can keep your back straight, then I invite you to sit on a blanket or a pillow. Today I have a blanket and a pillow. And so sitting on these props allows me to sit a little more comfortably. It's got my knees above my hips instead of the other way around. And then just take a breath in any way that feels nourishing for you in this moment. And maybe you feel comfortable enough to allow your eyes to close or just to slowly lower. And then just notice what you notice most once you kind of start to settle into this stillness. Do you notice any tension that you may be holding? Do you notice the way that you're breathing? Are you noticing your energy level? What is the first thing, or what are the first things that kind of float up to your mind as you sit here in silence and stillness? Do you notice the sounds around you? Do you notice the placement of your hands or the connection of your body to the props on the floor? And just answering that question without judgment and just noticing. Often, when we start a yoga practice or yoga session, or even throughout, teachers invite you to notice these things and consider these things. Take 2 or 3 more rounds of breath, just like that, just in noticing. And often, when teachers give you this invitation, it's to notice all of the layers of self that you are bringing to the mat with you. Like, we show up for this asana practice or this physical practice, but we're bringing so many other things with us to the mat. Like, our energy levels often determine sometimes whether or not we get to the mat at all, and then certainly play a role in what we're able to do when we get here. The way that we breathe is um, a way to bring in energy and ground ourselves, or lift the energy if our level is low, bring it down if it's high. And it's all in an effort to kind of bring awareness to everything that we are when we show up on our mat today. If you are in the mood to set an intention, I invite you to do that now. And that may just be choosing presence, or that may be really paying attention and noticing which layer of yourself is speaking to you today. Is it your energetic body? Like, how is your energy? Is it your physical body? How are you feeling? How are your muscles? How are your joints? Is it your mental body? What do you think about as you proceed through this practice? And then maybe as you notice that now, you can reflect on that again at the end of practice and just notice if there have been any shifts between what you noticed when you came to the mat and what you notice as you're leaving. just from taking a moment or two to focus on who you are today. And that may be a totally different person, energy, mindset than you were when you sat down on the mat yesterday or whenever the last time was it became. Let's take a few more rounds of breath just like that. And then either allowing your eyes to stay slowly lowered or if they were closed, slowly start to blink them open, slowly allowing the light in your environment to come in and illuminate the path that you'll be taking today on your yoga mat. And let's inhale and lift the arms up and overhead. And then exhale the arms back down by your side, allowing your fingertips to come and gently caress the floor or the mat. Inhale, lift. Maybe your gaze looks up towards your hands, maybe your fingertips touch. And then exhale, flip the palms down, allow your arms to come down, fingertips to the mat. We'll take 3 more breaths just like that. Inhaling on the way up, exhaling on the way down. 2 more. Awesome. This time, leaving your right fingertips touching just gently the floor. Can you inhale and lift your left arm up and over towards the side? And maybe you put a bend in your right elbow. Maybe the palm of your hand is on the floor, or maybe just the fingertips. And then lift the left hand and return it back down to the other side. Inhale to lift and fold over towards the right. Exhale to lift and take it back over towards the left. 3 more times on your own breath, just like that. Just noticing any sensations that you may be feeling as you lift and lower, or as you bend to one side and then straighten. And taking a moment even to just kind of pause in any areas if the sensation that you feel feels good or necessary. And then when you finish, take a moment, pausing in the center, and then we'll switch directions. Fingertips of the left hand are touching the floor and inhaling the right hand up and over towards the right side. Maybe even noticing as you graze your cat that just walked by, whether or not this side feels the same as the other side, or it may feel different. Again, noticing without any judgment, just going with the flow and just noticing whatever pops up. When you finish that last round, pausing here in the moment, in the middle for a moment, and just taking a few natural rounds of breath. And then bring your palms together at heart center for a moment, maybe allowing the thumb knuckles to touch. Reconnect with your intention if you set one, or perhaps make one if you didn't have a chance to before. Take 2 more rounds of breath. And then when you're ready, maybe slowly roll forward, or in any other way that makes sense for you. Come onto all fours. If you had props underneath of you, a blanket or a pillow or both, just slide them out of the way and come to this tabletop shape. Shoulders stacked over wrists, hips stacked over knees. maybe drawing your belly back towards your spine. And then let's take some cat-cow movements here. So allowing the belly to drop towards the mat and opening the chest up towards the front. And then exhale to round everything down and around, chin coming in towards the chest. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. Let's take this moment 3 more times on our own breath. Just noticing, once again, any sensations that we may be feeling as we curve our spine in opposite directions. And then come to stillness after your last rotation. And take any other movements that may feel organic to you in that moment. So that may be allowing your hips to fall to the left while your shoulders and head go towards the right, and then vice versa. That may be taking some circles or just starting to shift your hips forwards and backwards, bringing your hips over your heels and your shoulders. Extend maybe even past your fingertips. Maybe breathing in one direction or inhaling in one direction and doing the opposite movement in the opposite direction. Pausing while the cat walks underneath of you. And then can you leave your right hand on the mat right in front of your in line with your right knee, and then inhale your left hand up towards the sky. Toes can be tucked or flat. Play with both and decide which one feels better. And then exhale your hand down and under your armpit, just to reaching slightly towards the other side. And then inhale to lift back up towards the ceiling. Exhale to lower and reach over towards the right side. And then inhale to rise. Take that 2 more times. And then the next time you reach underneath the right armpit, bring your left shoulder down to the mat. And then stretch your right arm long, maybe coming up onto the fingertips. Let's stay here for a breath. And then when you're ready, if you choose, lift your right arm up towards the sky. And let's take some wrist circles here. So take a couple of twirls in one direction, and then take a couple in the opposite direction. And then either lower that right hand back down towards the mat, or flip it so that the back of the hand comes to the left hip crease. And then open your chest and your shoulder up towards the right side. Remembering to breathe. And at the bottom of the next exhale, if you took your arm behind your back, lift it back up towards the ceiling, and then back down to the floor. Slide your hand in so that it's right underneath your gaze. And then push up through your right hand. Inhale to lift your left hand up towards the sky one more time. Exhale to lower that left hand down to the mat. And let's take a couple more cat-cow movements here. Oh my gosh, I can't use words today. Take one more round of cat-cow. And then come to stillness in your table for a moment. Checking to make sure that your left wrist is in line with your left knee. And then inhale, let's lift the right hand up towards the sky. Exhale to lower and throw the right hand underneath the left armpit. Just give it a little wiggle, and then inhale, lift back up towards the sky. Exhale to lower. Inhale to lift. We'll take that 3 more times, just like that. Maybe keeping a slight bend in your left elbow. If you tend to hyperextend like I do. And then after your last one, we'll bring your right arm through. Bring your right shoulder down to the mat and extend your left arm long, coming onto the fingertips. Take a round or two of breath here. And then if you'd like, inhale to lift that hand up towards the ceiling. And we'll take some wrist circles here. So twirling in one direction. And then twirling in the opposite direction. And then when you're ready, either bringing that hand back down to the mat or flipping the back of the palm and taking it behind you to the right hip crease. Maybe taking a subtle shift to open your shoulder and your chest a little more towards the left side of that mat. One more complete round of breath. And then if you took your hand behind the back, take a moment to lift it back up towards the sky and then bring it down to the mat. And when you're ready, slide it back in so that it's right underneath your gaze and pushing up through the left hand. Inhale the right arm up towards the sky. Exhale, lower, and return to table. And let's take a few more cat-cows. Take one more round of cat-cows here. And then bring your knees out to the width of your mat and bring your toes into touch. Send your hips back and walk your hands forward. Maybe even bringing your forehead down to the mat for child's pose. You can make this an active child's pose by coming up onto your fingertips and walking your fingers forward while you send your hips back. Or you can make it a really inactive child's pose by just exhaling and letting everything sink. Notice where your breath goes as you take each inhale and each exhale in this shape. Notice any places that you may be feeling sensations in your body. Notice if you're not feeling any sensations at all. It's all a part of connecting your mind and your body and your breath. Let's take one more complete round of breath here. And then when you're ready, slowly rise up, walking your hands back towards your body, walking your knees in towards one another. Check to see that your knees are stacked about hips width distance apart and your hands are about shoulders width distance apart. Tuck the toes if they're not already tucked. Oh, he found a way to stay on my mat. Tuck your toes if they're not already tucked. And then lift your hips up and back for downward facing dog. Take a deep breath and just notice how you feel in this shape. And notice whether or not your body is calling for some movement. And so that might look like alternating, bending the left knee and then the right knee. Sending one heel down towards the mat and then another. Maybe you want to experiment with allowing your hips to fall to the right, to the left, and just noticing how that feels. And if that If what you feel offers a benefit to you, maybe you keep doing that. Or maybe you've chosen stillness for a few more rounds of breath. After your next complete in breath and your next complete out breath, take a moment to step your feet out towards the width of your mat, out towards the outside of your mat, and then slowly walk your hands back towards your feet and pause here in this wide-legged forward fold, allowing your fingertips to graze the mat, or you may feel inspired to lift the hands and grab opposite elbows. Maybe keeping a bend in the knees to alleviate any extra sensation that you may be feeling along the left side or the back side of the legs. And then just pause here in the middle, or maybe take a sway from left to right. Two more rounds of breath and whatever you've chosen. And then if you chose movement, come to stillness in the center. If you took opposite elbows, lower your hands down to the mat. And then slowly walk your hands back out to this wide-legged down dog. Again, choosing to take this in stillness or in movement. Maybe noticing what this wide-legged dog offers you. If you shifted your hips from side to side in the first down dog, maybe you try that in this one and just notice whether or not that feels the same or feels differently. Take one more round of breath. And then when you're ready, slowly walk the feet back in towards one another so that they're right underneath your hips. And then maybe turning your gaze between your hands, slowly lower your knees down to the mat. Bring toes into touch one more time and send your hips out. Send your knees out to the width of the mat. And bring your forehead down, maybe walking your hands out for child's pose. Noticing whether or not this child's pose feels the same as the last one that you took, or whether or not you're starting to notice any subtle differences. Maybe noticing the quality of your breath and whether or not that has changed any since you started the practice. None of these answers need to be affirmative. It's just a way of noticing and keeping our focus on ourselves, whatever layer of self we happen to be noticing in that moment. Just being mindful of noticing, but without judgment. Or if we notice with judgment, following it up with compassion for that judgment, and then just exhaling it away. One more round of breath. And then let's inhale, slowly rise, walking the hands back towards the knees and walking the knees back in towards one another. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. 3 rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready, concentrating the weight into the left foot, can you lift the left foot up towards the sky, straightening the right leg behind you? And then if you'd like, allow the right foot to fall over towards the left side of the mat. And just noticing any sensations that you may be feeling as you start to open up the hips. If you're anything like me, that's a lot of sensation. And notice your feet. What do they want to do? Do they want to point or flex? Do they want to twirl in circles? If you're not sure, try it all. And then when you're ready, re-extend the leg long behind you, pointing the toes for a moment. Then can you square your hips towards the mat and then bring the right knee in towards the chest. Shift forward and then step your right foot between your hands. Maybe moving your right hand out of the way if your arms are short like mine. And then shift forwards and backwards in this lunge. Again, just noticing how that feels. And then exhale. Let's lower the left knee down towards the mat and untuck the toes. Walking the hands up the shin. So interlace the fingers and place the palms on the top of the thigh. And take a moment or two to shift forwards and back. Just noticing, where's your knee in relationship to your ankle? As you're shifting forwards and backwards, how does your balance feel? Does it feel like you need to shift a foot forward or maybe out? Just noticing, and then give yourself what you need. And then when you feel really stable, let's exhale and then inhale to release the fingers and lift the fingertips up towards the sky and maybe sink a little bit deeper into this lunge if that feels okay. And if not, stay where you are. At the top of the next inhale, exhale and release the left hand towards the inside of the right foot and twist your body open towards the right side. Take one round of breath here. Again, give yourself some circle twist, wrist circles of the wrists. And then maybe bring the back of that hand down towards your left hip crease, opening up towards the right side. And then if you brought the hand behind the back, inhale to release back up towards the sky, and then exhale back down to frame the foot. Let's walk the fingertips back while straightening the right leg, and then exhale to fold forward. Maybe your toes want to be pointed up towards the sky, and maybe they want to be flexed towards the front of the room. One more round of breath here. And then slowly walk your fingers forward back into this low lunge. Tuck the left toes and lift the left leg off the mat, shifting forwards and back. And then when you're ready, plant both hands on the mat and then send your right foot back to meet the left, downward facing dog. And 2 more rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready, let's take that on the other side. So planting your weight into the ball of your right foot, and you lift your left foot back and up. And then if you want to bring the sole of the foot over towards the right side of your mat, I invite you to do that. Even taking some circles with the ankle, if that feels okay. Not doing that if it doesn't. And then re-straighten the left leg behind you, turning your hips towards the mat. And then inhale to bring the knee in towards the chest for the purpose of stepping the left foot through the hands sliding the left hand out of the way if you need to make space for that, and shifting forwards and back before dropping the knee down to the mat and untucking the toes. Take a moment here before walking the hands up the shin and eventually resting on the thigh, fingers interlaced, and then shifting forwards and back, noticing whether or not we need to make any adjustments to make this pose a little more accessible for us today, or whether or not we need to vacate it completely. Once you find your stability and the alignment that works for you today, inhale to lift the fingers up towards the sky, palms facing. And as you exhale, can you notice your shoulders relax away from your ears? And then can you sink a little further into the lunge? Take one more round of breath here. And then at the top of the next inhale, you exhale, right hand down to the floor on the inside of the left foot. And then inhale, the left hand up towards the sky. And taking some wrist circles if that is something that is working for you today, that you find a benefit. And then if you'd like, bringing the back of the left hand towards the right hip crease and opening up the shoulder and the chest towards the right side. If you took the hand behind the back, inhale to lift it back up towards the ceiling, and then exhale it down to frame the foot. Walking left and right hands back and straightening the left leg. Once again, deciding whether or not your toes want to be flexed up towards the ceiling, or pointing up towards the ceiling, or pointing towards the front. It may be different on the left side than it was on the right side. And then exhale it to fold a little further over the leg. So maybe keeping a bend in the left leg, depending on how much sensation you're feeling along that backside. At the bottom of the next exhale, slowly walk your fingers forward. Take a breath here while you tuck the toes and lift the right leg off the mat and shift forwards and back. When you're ready, planting both hands on the mat, can you send your left toes back to meet the right for downward facing dog? 3 rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready, take as many steps as you need to walk your feet up towards your hands, and then pause in this forward fold. And then when you're ready, inhale to slowly rise, maybe tracing the fingertips along the shin, along the thighs, pausing at the top before lifting the head. And then just taking a moment to notice any sensations that you may be feeling now that you're standing upright. Notice if your eyes are open or closed. Notice if you're standing still or swaying from side to side. And then if you're swaying, notice if that's a movement that is serving you right now. Do you want to sway from side to side? If so, go with that. Sway a little more. Take one more in breath and one more out breath. And then see if you can notice all four corners of your feet or your whole foot on the floor. And then can you try to stand really still, whatever that means for you today? If the answer is no, that's okay too. And just notice what muscles you may be engaging so that you can make that happen. Not worrying about whether you're doing it right or wrong, if there were such a thing, just noticing. And then at the bottom of your next exhale, can you inhale your fingers up towards the sky? And then planting through both feet, can you just sit your hips back for chair pose? Thank you, Marie. Inhale, bringing the palms to touch and bring your hands in towards heart center. And then exhale to fold forward over the legs. Drop the hands. Inhale to slowly rise, maybe tracing the shins and the thighs. When you get back up to the top, pause for a moment. And then inhale to lift the fingertips up towards the sky. Exhale, sit the hips back for chair pose. Inhale, bring the palms in towards the chest and start to fold forward. Dropping the arms for just a breath. And then inhale, and we'll do that again. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale, sit the hips back for chair. Bringing the palms in towards the heart and fall forward, releasing the hands down towards the floor. Slowly start to rise, tracing the shin and the thighs. And let's take that one more time. Inhale to lift. Exhale, sit back for chair. Bringing the palms in and fold forward. Release the hands towards the floor and just pause. Inhale to trace the shins and the thighs. And then rest here in a really strong mountain pose for 3 breaths. At the bottom of your next exhale, let's lift the hands up and overhead one more time. Exhale and just slowly fold forward. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale to rise all the way up to standing, palms by your side. 2 rounds of breath. Let's take that again. Inhale to lift the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, palms down through heart center and fold. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale, rise all the way up through standing. And pause for a moment, 2 rounds of breath. And one more time. Inhale, arms up towards the sky. Exhale to fold forward over the legs. Inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold. And inhale. Oops. Oh, just go ahead and take the hands all the way up. I meant to pause before that, but that's okay. And then exhale, hands down to heart center and down by your side. Pausing for 2 rounds of breath. I tried to stop my brain from doing that automatic thing and it wanted to do it anyway. How many things are we doing just because we're programmed to do so? All right, let's go ahead and make our way down to the floor. So inhale, the arms up and overhead, and exhale one more time to fold. Planting both hands or the fingertips on the mat. Let's step back, the right foot, step back, the left foot for our last downward facing dog. Taking this in movement or in stillness. And then when you're ready, take your gaze between your hands and bring your knees down to the mat. Bring your toes into touch and your knees out to the width for child's pose. Let's take 3 rounds of breath in this child's pose. Or 4 if you want an extra one. Or stay here for the remainder of practice if that is what floats your boat. And then when you're ready, one more time, walking your hands back towards your knees in towards each other. And then fishtail your feet over to the right or left side so that you can come down on your bottom. And then straighten your legs in front of you. Just pausing here for a moment. And then when you're ready, walk your heels back towards your hips, bringing the soles of your feet onto the floor. And palms, you can bring behind your thighs, maybe scooting your hips up just a little bit. Oh, and I'm going to scoot my hips up a lot so I don't lay down on my dog. And then anchoring yourself, help lower yourself down slowly to the mat. And then give yourself a big sigh and let go all of the effort that you've expelled in your standing postures. From here, let's take the feet out wide towards the edges of your mat and allow your knees to fall in towards one another. And then stay there if that feels good, or if you are feeling like you want to windshield wiper your knees from right to left, then I invite you to do that. And if you're not sure, just do that and see if it offers you anything that you need today. If you are windshield wipering the knees, take one more sway to the right, and one more sway to the left. And then with your knees pointing up towards the ceiling, can you heel toe your feet in towards one another, about hips width distance. And then maybe walk the heels back towards your hips just a little bit. We'll be taking bridge pose. And from here, bring your arms down long by your sides, palms face down. And then pushing down through all 4 corners of your feet, slowly lift your hips off the mat. Doesn't have to be much. And then exhale, lower your hips back down to the mat. We'll take that one more time, pushing down through your whole foot, lift your hips up towards the sky. And maybe this time you lift them a little higher. If you feel like your knees are swaying out to the side, you take a moment and pull them back in towards one another. And then exhale, lower all the way back down to the mat. We'll take that one more time. Inhale to lift the hips. Maybe even taking a moment to push down through the shoulder blades and then walk the shoulder blades in towards each other. And then if you're so inspired to bring the palms to touch, behind the back, and then see if you can lift up a little bit further. And your response can always be no, I don't want to do that today. And that's totally okay. In any way that makes sense for you in whatever shape you're in right now, slowly release your effort and lower back down to the mat. Let's bring the knees in towards the chest and rock from left to right. Noticing whether or not the lower back is still on the mat. Maybe we can even feel that we're giving ourselves a massage. Let's keep the right knee pulled in towards the chest and lengthen the left leg long. And take one round of breath here. And then can you pull the left or the right knee over towards the left side of the body, extending the right arm long at your side. Maybe you bring your knee all the way down and maybe it stays just kind of hovering in midair like mine. And just notice where you feel that. And then inhale to bring yourself back through center. Right knee is still into the chest. Bring the left knee in to meet it. Rock from side to side. And this time, let's keep the left knee in towards the chest and extend the right leg long for when relieving pose on this side. After your next complete round of breath, guiding your left knee with your right hand, you bring your right knee over towards the right side of the mat for a twist, sending your left arm out to the side and maybe turning your gaze over the left arm, left hand. And depending on your anatomy, your knee may go all the way over to the other side, or it may just kind of hang out. One more round of breath. And then inhale your knees back up through center, bringing knees in towards the chest and rocking from side to side. Lower the soles of the feet down towards the mat and stretch your legs long underneath of you and your arms reaching above you. Maybe taking a moment to pet your dog who is still not moved out of the way. And pull yourself in opposite directions, like somebody is pulling you through the fingertips and the toes. And then if there are any final movements that you would like to take that are calling to you to complete today's practice, I invite you to do that now. Otherwise, take a moment to select your final shape for Shavasana, which may be a meditative seat, or you may just relax everything down on the floor, allowing your feet and your knees to roll out to opposite sides, maybe palms face up, facing the ceiling. What does your body do when you release the expectation that you have anything else to do besides just lay there? And then take a moment to scan your body and your energy and the thoughts that may be popping up. And then release those thoughts, release that effort, and just be for the next several moments. Let's take 5 more rounds of breath. And then when you're ready, in any way that makes sense for you, make your way up to a seated shape. And so that may be starting by wiggling the fingers and the toes. You may choose to bring your knees in towards your chest and take a couple of rocking movements as you work your way up to a seated shape. You may roll over to one side and pause in the fetal position for a breath or two before walking your way up to a seated shape. Do you? There is no right or wrong way to do that. And then if you're ready and you have the energy to join me in 3 sun breaths, let's inhale the arms up and overhead and exhale them down through heart center. Inhale up, exhale to lower, and one more time. Inhale up and exhale to lower. And take a moment to thank yourself for showing up for you and for me on your mat this morning or this afternoon. As always, a light in me sees and honors a light in you. Thank you for practicing today. Namaste.